What's up, Missouri? Hopefully you don't doom scroll. Sherry Dawn, just getting started on this live. So let's give TikTok a moment to share this live out to more people and see how many people join this evening. We've been having a pretty good showing. We're going to discuss a really, really important topic and give everyone context to those groups that are trying to take control, or that I believe are trying to take control of our American democracy. And I don't think most people understand the nuance on this and the breakdown of how these groups are broken down. I had to change some of the wording on this because a video that I did earlier today is not doing well. And it's very surprising because I think it's what I said in the video. So I need to be careful with my words and how I reference certain things. And I try to make the graphic a little bit more neutered or watered down so that it doesn't get flagged by, obviously the suppression gods. So anyway, so today's topic, I wanted to come on because I wanted to other people to give me their thoughts on whether they think this is really insightful or not, how much people knew about these three particular groups, and how they're working from the inside. So it's not unusual for lots of special interests and so forth to be trying to influence our government from the outside. It's a little bit more unusual when they're actually working from the inside on an everyday basis, meaning open the doors wide open, come on in, you're invited, you can do whatever you want. There's several of these groups, and there's even one more group that's not mentioned in this video. Will be upcoming in the next video. So it's important that, I don't know if you guys can, hopefully you can actually see the prompt. Is Trump the biggest threat to American democracy, or just a vehicle for these groups? I wanted to say it a little bit differently, but I didn't want this live to be restricted. So this is a live Q&A session. You can join or ask questions, join live and as a guest, or ask questions in the comments about these three groups. And these three groups are the Dark MAGA Mafia, right there. And then, of course, hopefully everybody can see this depending on your sizes of your phones and so forth. Then you got the pro-Israel faction, the Zionists, and then you got the WC nationalists, and that might be the word when I had it spelt out before. Our country, let's see, any comments? So, yeah. So if you guys are sitting there thanking Donald Trump, so I guess you're thanking him for opening the doors and letting in the water closet nationalists. I'm going to go water closet. If you ever know the acronym WC, or the abbreviation WC in Europe, that's basically for toilet, for bathroom. So instead of spelling it out, WC, because I don't want this to get restricted here, I'm going to call it the water closet nationalists, because they have nothing in common with Christianity and so forth. So we see there's a lot of MAGA people in here, which, hey, you're welcome. I'm an independent, but I hope you take your heads out of your asses and realize that our government is being sold to these particular three groups: the Dark MAGA Mafia, which follows Dark Enlightenment, those of you that don't think that the pro-Israel groups, and the WC, or the water closet nationalists. These are the three groups that are infecting our democracy, and they're working from the inside out. So, that was a joke? Okay, so I just saw that MAGA rules. Dems are the worst. Yeah, you're some American. I can't stand anyone on the right or the left that just blames the other side. And you realize we're all Americans, and you are just doing yourself a great injustice by constantly being a little bee and blaming the other side. That's all you do. Blame and play the victim. Like, grow the F up and stop playing the victim, and take your heads out of your asses and realize what's happening to our representative democracy. Those of you who claim you're, pro-constitution or pro-rule of law, and then you get an administration like this that is breaking the law and tearing up the Constitution, and you need to get to a little bit, maybe you need to go get some help or something, because you're not pro-law and order. You're not for the rule of law. You're not for decency whatsoever. I'll call you straight out if you're someone that's a tool like that and so hardcore MAGA that you're just about the team. It's always about the team instead of actually the team that really matters. That's all of America. And if you're one of those people that's too far gone, then I can't help you. But if you're a normal conservative or an independent or a normal individual on the left, then you realize that these three groups right here are to blame. And I'm going to go over that in more detail sort of in my monologue so I can explain to you what's going on. So Ken 82. So let's take a look and let me jump into show you what's actually happening. So anyways, I have to be a little careful with using names and so forth because I don't want to this is more about a discussion and letting people understand that this is really important for you to understand. So who is the dark MAGA mafia and why are they called the dark MAGA mafia? Well, it's pretty much mostly because of Elon Musk. So, two reasons. So dark MAGA mafia, it's formerly most of the key players are part of the old PayPal mafia. So Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, David Sachs, and many others. They used to be part of the PayPal mafia, and it's a group of Silicon Valley billionaires. Now, they're called the dark MAGA mafia now because they support Trump, but not because they really support Trump, because they're just using Trump. And they're the dark MAGA mafia because Elon Musk typically wore the black MAGA hat and not the red MAGA hat. And that was to indicate that he's not MAGA, he's part of dark MAGA. And this group, if you look up the name Curtis Yarvin, he came up with a theory or a philosophy called dark enlightenment. You'll see it right here. All you have to do is Google it, and you'll see that J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel, David Sachs, Elon Musk, and others have talked about dark enlightenment. And basically, it's a theory that says that democracy has failed and that a small group of people in this dark MAGA mafia should install a dictator CEO. They call it a CEO-like person, but that's really code for a dictator, and that the executive should have as much power as possible. But they want to install a puppet so they can control them, and that puppet is J.D. Vance. Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and others from this group are the reason that J.D. Vance, first of all, is in politics whatsoever, and he's also the reason that he's the vice president of the United States, because the dark MAGA mafia made a hard push to Trump that said, you need to have him as our VP, as your VP. He's loyal. He'll do what you want to do. But really what they were doing is placing J.D. Vance in this position as a potential follow successor to Donald Trump so they can carry out what they truly want, which is a dictatorship in the United States. Now, they're also leveraging Trump because they know Trump is doing a great job for them in terms of breaking down the Constitution and democratic norms. So they're okay with him, even though Trump is not their guy. So they're just sort of waiting in the wings to something to happen or for his term to wear out. And then J.D. Vance would be installed as their puppet dictator. So all you have to do is go Google this stuff and listen to the quotes that Peter Thiel, David Sachs, and J.D. Vance have talked about Curtis Yarvin and dark enlightenment and the need that American democracy has failed and that needs to have more control and it's inefficient. And if you realize that the main issue here is that when you talk about democracy failing, you can make an argument that we're not a democracy anymore and that we're more like a corporatocracy, and that's true. But we're a representative democracy, but we're not functioning as one. And the argument would be these people are not just these people, but these people in all special interests and all big money have corrupted our system to so much that our representation is bought and paid for and bribed by these groups and many, many other groups, and that our representation doesn't represent the people, it just represents them. That's the reason our democracy is in the state that it's in, is because our representation doesn't represent the people. It's not that there's anything wrong with democracy. If it was functioning well, it would be incredibly effective and efficient, relative speaking, to governments. But that's what they're trying to sell you as a bill of sale, that democracy has failed. You hear it all the time with them talking about we're not a democracy or we're a republic. No, we're a constitutional republic, and we're a representative democracy. So, Sally Cat, I see your nonsense here. Good luck to you. You can have a civil discussion, or you can get the heck out of here with your ridiculous stuff. So bye-bye. All right. So anyhow, this is the point, that the Dark MAGA Mafia is one of those groups trying to position themselves to eliminate democracy and install a dictator. It will be someone other than Trump, eventually someone that listens to them a little bit more, because Trump is a sociopath, right? He's erratic and so forth. So he's just being leveraged. Now, on the other hand, there's another group, and it's pro-Israel Zionists. I don't want to say the words, and I'm not going to say the names. You can read the names. Now, this one is, so a lot of people have a lot of problems with this country in particular, but you have to understand that every country is trying to influence our government. The difference here is that they are trying to fully embed themselves into our government, buying and paying for our politicians, so that they can have as much control and influence, ensuring, making sure that Israel is protected. So they want to make sure that the Israel, or the Jewish state, is protected and survives. And the only way they can do that is to make sure they have American support no matter who is in office. That is their goal. And it's not necessarily a nefarious goal. Of course, they want the survival of the Jewish state, and they need the United States to protect it. The problem is they seem to be using a lot of the money that we give them in support comes back to our politicians in bribes and favors and so forth. So they use it for lobbying to influence our system. But now they're deeply embedded, and they have been for a while, inside of our government. So they're not lobbying in good faith, of course. And there's obviously a connection possibly to the e-files here, and we won't get into that today, but that's certainly happening as well. One other thing they would really like us to do, ideally the United States, is the mortal or the arch enemy of Israel is Iran. And they want Iran to be eliminated, or the Iranian government to be eliminated, the Iranian regime to be eliminated. And there's nothing more than what Netanyahu and Israel would like us to do than to help them annihilate Iran. That is the ultimate goal for Israel, because that ensures, or they think it ensures, the survival of the Jewish state. So make no mistake about it, that would be their perfect scenario, is to get America caught up into a war with Iran in order to eliminate the Iranian regime. So that's the second group, deeply embedded in our government and nefarious and doing things that are unsavory, to say the least. And then you have the third group, and I'm going to call them the WC nationalists. You can read into that how you want. I'm going to call them the water closet nationalists, because, WC is an acronym or an abbreviation for water closet in Europe. For me, it basically means toilet, but you understand it's a religious thing. So there's certain words I have to be careful about using on this live. So they are the WC nationalists, and they are the Heritage Foundation who created Project 2025. And Russell Vogt right there, who is the co-author of Project 2025, is deeply embedded, obviously, into our administration, or this administration, and is the director of the OMB office, the people or the department that writes the checks when Congress approves money. So Project 2025 and the WC Nationalist, they have a different outcome and motive, and they consist of these people right here. I'm not going to say too many names again. They consist of these people and many more. Now, make no mistake about it, they have very little in common with Christianity. It's the opposite. They have something much more in common with the Grim Reaper and Satan. They claim to be Christians, but they're not Christians. Let's be real. Most good Christians would not support these WC nationalists. They are white supremacists. That's what they are. That's what they are, and that's what you should call them. So you shouldn't call them anything to do with Christianity. You should just call them white supremacists. That's really what they are. Now, they, again, are working from the inside. Russell, Vogt, and these other individuals. Now, here's what they want. They want the United States to be a religious fascist state or a theocracy, a government based on religion, which wholeheartedly goes against what the Constitution is about. So if you believe in the rule of law, which is the Constitution, and what the founding fathers set up, which was a secular document, meaning that no law shall be created based on religion, and our government should never be based on religion because we have freedom of religion. These people don't agree with that whatsoever. They want to take over our government and turn it into a theocracy. And they are also leveraging Mr. Trump in the same way to tear down democracy as much as possible. And again, these people are working from the inside. They're not working from the outside. And this is what Project 2025 is all about. All you have to do is read Project 2025, go through the list of all the things they're trying to accomplish, and you'll see very clearly installing loyalists, installing people based on a certain faith, and then ultimately they want to take over government. So these three groups are incredibly sinister and really trying to take over our American democracy and completely eradicate the idea of representative democracy. So that's what they're doing in these three groups. There's actually a fourth group. I'm not going to talk about it today. But if you want to question anything that I'm saying here, all you have to do is you don't listen to me. It's in their own words. These people have, in both of these groups, have talked about that democracy has failed and they want to install a dictatorship. Not my words, their goals written in a plan. And that's what Project 2025 is. Now, if you MAGA people want to continue to deny this, you do so at your own peril. This will not work out well for you. And you do this basically without any values and integrity. You should just give up your values. And this is not all people on the right. I'm talking about the hardcore MAGA people, some of those people in the comments that are talking about this. Like, if you're so hardcore MAGA that you're MAGA over America, then you are a traitor. It's just that simple. It's treasonous because you don't believe in the Constitution, you don't believe in the rule of law, and you don't believe in it being conservative. You're full of shit. You basically have no integrity and you have no values. You have no decency to realize that you're so far gone in the MAGA sphere that you would vote everything against your own best interest. And you claim to be pro-America, or some people claim to be, they're the real patriots. Give me a break. You're not a real patriot. You're a traitor. That's what you are, because you don't believe in the Constitution. You're not as smart as the founding fathers that took 11 years to develop the Constitution and put this incredible document in place, an incredible representative democracy, and you are going against it. These are just facts. You are not pro-law and order. You're not for the rule of law. And that means you probably don't have many values, or somehow you've lost your values along the way, because everything that you do is blaming the other side and playing the victim and being pro Donald Trump. Like, you cannot be any deeper in the cult, and you can't realize that there are other forces leveraging this despicable human being that is Trump, because he also has no values other than valuing money and his ego. That's it. He has no values. He has no integrity. He has been bankrupt 6 times. He's a fraud. He's a grifter. He sexualizes women and possibly even a pedophile and is on the E-list. Like, you talk about despicable human. He's indefensible. So if you're defending him, then you need to look in the mirror and realize you probably have no integrity and you're just an awful human being as well. Or somehow you've just got caught up and just lost yourself in any sort of decency whatsoever. Ken82 says, same with the Clintons. Well, the Clinton bill, if you're referring to the e-files, yep, that's true. I'm not going to defend. I'm a staunch independent. So, I don't defend. I actually am someone that has values and has integrity. And it doesn't matter if they're blue or red. I abide by the Constitution and the rule of law. I actually believe in the Constitution and what the founding fathers wanted to set up as an American representation or representative democracy. I believe in that. I'm all for it, no matter whether the rule of law always applies equally to me, whether you're Democratic or Republican. It doesn't matter to me. It's actually because I have values, unlike a lot of people in the comments who don't. I always put country over party. And if you remember, and you may not know this, and Eeyore, you're going to be up next, but I don't like that profile image, so I don't know how much time I'm going to give you. So if you're representative, oh, you're gone now. So unlike some people, I have equal values and I apply the rule of law and the Constitution equally across the spectrum. I don't care if you're a Democrat or I don't care if you're a Republican. I am for the rule of law and the Constitution, and I believe what the founding fathers set up as our representative democracy was an incredible feat that we should not let go. We should be cautious, right? But if you're so pro-Trump, you're not pro-rule of law. It's just really that simple. So you can talk about it all you want, but you actually have to apply. So you may not know what a value is if you're not applying your values equally, no matter what the situation is. That's what a value is. You value something beyond whether it's a race or a creed or a religion. So if you say that all men are created equal, that's a value that you should take seriously. And so many other types of values. The difference is that as a Democrat, I don't care who is on the E list, arrest them all. So that's a great point. So we have some sanity here with Gottmik 67. That's right. I don't care. I don't believe in tribalism of party. What I wanted to mention earlier is George Washington, in his farewell address, said that he was fearful of the formation of parties because he knew that parties would likely put their own interests above those of the nation. And over time, it would allow foreign interests and other factors to infiltrate those parties and be more loyal to the party than you are to the nation. And that applies to both red and blue. If you are placing your party over what's best for yourself and the nation, then I have to question, you're certainly not a patriotic American by the definition. You are more a traitor than anything else. All right, so I don't know how to pronounce that username. Keep it civil, otherwise you get kicked. I want to know, is Trump the biggest threat to democracy or just a vehicle for these groups? Let's talk about, if you want to ask questions about these three particular groups, I can give you a lot more insight, but I don't want to ramble on about the details unless I'm asked the question. All right, so that's an interesting profile image. Should I read into that profile image at all?
Yeah, go ahead. My name's Lore, by the way.
Oh, Lore. Okay.
What would you debate by that profile image?
It's hard to tell. It looks very sinister and nefarious. Am I wrong?
Oh, yeah, it's meant to be that way, but it's also an American flag across the mask.
What is it?
There's an American flag across the mask.
Okay, it's too far away. It's too small, so I can't see it.
It's hard to see, but there's an American flag across that mask. So what would you determine with that knowledge?
American flag across the as a mask.
That's the mask from V for Vendetta.
Oh, okay. Well, I actually have that one of the quotes for Vendetta, that V for Vendetta. So give me your insights.
You see where I am?
Do I see where you're at? No, tell us.
Oh, I would be what they would call Antifa, I guess.
Okay. So wait, Antifa in the form of anti-fascist or some other definition?
Correct.
Okay. So am I reading into this properly that you're on the left?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You're communist?
No.
Okay. Just liberal.
More socialism.
More socialism. So more Chinese socialism?
No. More like our tax dollars actually going to things that benefit this country. More like, let's say, I believe in the Constitution and owning the right to bear arms, but I also feel there should be regulations on that. The same way you get a car, the same way they're insured, the same way they're that. We could treat guns the same way.
Okay.
I have different opinions on every topic. You know what I mean? But they would classify me as far left crazy for saying some of the other shit where I'm like, I think we should help people and stop, ripping people out of their cars and jobs and school lunch lines.
Okay.
Because
I always say people always tell you and show you who they are, which you just have to watch and listen. So I always appreciate it when people are very forthright, no matter where they stand, because people generally always tell you. So you're coming obviously from a left side, but let's not get too far into the weeds about some of these issues. I don't like to talk about specific issues because my platform is about replacing all career politicians from both parties, ideally, and enacting a 28th and 29th Amendment. It's not about picking fights with right versus left because that's just a means to divide and conquer. So it's more about educating people on what's happening to our representative democracy and who's taking control of it, which, as you can see here, I don't know how long you've been watching, but it's about these three groups right here.
I've been here for about probably 10 minutes.
Okay. So
before I request it up.
Okay, cool. So what I'm talking about, of course, is mostly these three groups that are working from the inside.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're talking about like term limits, I guess, then, and age limits, then.
Oh, close. Congress? Yeah. So I never wanted to do. I'm talking about two specific. Yeah, 28th Amendment would be that there should be no that all of elections need to be publicly funded by individuals, not corporations. Money is not speech, and corporations are not people. And the 29th Amendment should be that being a politician should not be a career, and there needs to be strict term limits, and you need to go into office.
And if the government shuts down, you don't get paid.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Put that in there for me.
Yeah, those are the 28th and 29th Amendments. The reason I use that because if you're a sensible and reasonable American, no matter where you sit on the political spectrum, the vast majority of people would support those two things.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so that's my stance. That's always my position. I'm not about trying to pick fights about the left versus right.
So then what's the name? I guess what's it with all these names? And you want these people removed, or they're just all constructors of a future we don't want to be in?
Well, there's always been so many forces. All foreign governments have foreign agents, and foreign governments are always trying to influence our government. Always has been. It's never going to change.
Yeah.
And of course, then you have corporate special interests and lobbyists from every walk of life. You have these infiltrators. But what's happening in these particular groups, the Silicon Valley Dark MAGA Mafia, the Peter Thiels of the world from Dark Enlightenment, which is they have been trying to promote not anti-capitalism, but democracy. They've been promoting anti-democracy. They want a CEO like dictatorship. And then you have the WC nationalists, which I think you can read into what that is. That's Project 2025. These are religious fascists. They are trying to turn our government into a theocracy. And then you have over here the pro-Israel Zionists, who basically are trying to embed themselves into our government as deeply as possible to ensure the survival of the Jewish state. So you
need to add Curtis Yarvin to the Dark MAGA list.
Yeah, I can't fit him in there though. Yeah, Dark Enlightenment is his theory, right?
Yeah, it's his theory. Sorry, I just hate that dude.
Yeah, he's a little creep. Like he's a little douchebag creep, right? And he came up just
threatened. Did you see what he tweeted like 2 weeks ago?
Did not.
Oh, he was like, if something about the direction of America isn't going the way, he's going to have to leave the country in the next like month.
Oh wait, I did hear a reference to that. You know, yeah, go ahead.
Which is funny to me. That's all I had to say. It's just this is your own creation, and you guys aren't smart enough to even make it happen.
Right. Well, they're taking like these three groups in particular are working from the inside. They're working within Trump's administration, right? All these names, many of them are actually inside the administration or have an open door policy and can walk right into the White House. They've been invited. Trump is just a stooge for these people to try and take their power and try and take power.
I have a hot take. Stephen Miller is actually running our country.
Well, he's one of the people trying to.
Yeah, but I think he's the one who's I feel like he's the you know how you always got that meme or like whatever, just of the old thing of an angel and the devil on your shoulder. Stephen Miller's the devil on his shoulder, constantly whispering in his ear.
Well, Stephen Miller is one of them, and so is Russ Vought. You know Russ Vought, right?
Yep.
So he's the co-author of Project 2025, and you remember the AI video that they posted 4 weeks ago, right, with Russ Vought being the Grim Reaper.
Oh yeah, that was. Jeez, there's so much that happens. That was only 4 weeks ago.
Now you should read that and go watch that video again now that you know what's
Here,
happening with the
I'll
government
pull it up
shutdown,
right now.
because it is astonishing how
Who posted
accurate.
that again? What account?
All you have to do is type in YouTube is Trump AI video, and that's it. It'll come up.
Trump AI Grim Reaper.
Yeah, Trump AI Grim Reaper, and look for the one from ProPublica because that's the original. So the
Is that
source
from ProPublica?
ProPublica is the original with the original music on it.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, and they're the original. There's a lot of fakes out there, and that's the original.
I got it. Russell Rod, the Shadow President or some shit. Oh no, that's a whole movie. I don't need to see that.
Right. And basically, it's showing that Russ Vogt is the Grim Reaper. Russ Vogt's goal of Project 2025 is obviously to drain the swamp, right? And to them, the swamp is all of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats in Congress, not just Democrats. And it's all bureaucrats to replace everybody in every agency and every department with loyalists. I mean, that's the goal of Project 2025.
I know very well and clear.
Yeah. But there's obviously a bunch of other people in here, so making sure that everybody really understands, because the nuance here is really important. I also many times just say, all these special interests have so much influence over our government that we no longer have representation. But when I say that, it's too broad. People need to understand the specific forces that are really the most nefarious, because you can just say corporate special interests, and you think, yeah, of course, like General Motors and these AI companies and Exxon,
Target,
all of them are trying to influence government, but they're just the normal corporate special interests. These groups are much more nefarious and much more embedded into government.
Well, example to show you how embedded. Let's say, can I go the top blue? The blue circle, right, is embedded in our government. There was a recent event held, I want to say a month ago, but news goes so crazy. It was called 50 States, One Israel. Did you hear about this?
I did not. I don't.
They brought two, I think, senators or congresspeople from every single state to Israel to tell them how to talk to their states in constituents, how great Israel is.
Well, that's our tax dollars being sent to Israel and coming back and trying to influence our government officials.
I'm going to Google it with you, so I don't want to give misinformation. Misinformation. That's why I wanted to. 50 states, one Israel.
50 states, one Israel. Got it. Okay, one Israel, not as in WON, as in ONE.
Nope. 50 states, one. It's literally a Wikipedia article about it.
Okay.
It was a conference held in Israel from September 14th, 2025 to September 18th in 2025 for state legislators from the United States and members of the Israel government. They sent, including state legislators from all 50, they sent 2 state legislators from I think that's what I heard, but they did say there's state legislators from every 50 states, all the 50 states.
Red Iron Ranch knows about this, and she says there were a couple of Republicans who did not go. So that's interesting. I need to read into that a little bit more.
So maybe they denied the request, but I'm just saying, there's a whole list of them. Alaska had 4, Arizona had 3. There is more than 100, maybe. No, none from my state. Let's go.
Well, the interesting, I may have a hot take on this that may not be that popular. Every government is trying to influence our government. And the thing about Israel is the survival of the Jewish state, of course, is important to them. Why wouldn't it be? But what Americans have to recognize is that this is what we did with the British. We helped form the Israel state, and we made this deal. We made the promise we're going to create Israel as a state. And it's also our responsibility, and this is what's going to be unpopular, to protect the Israel state or the Jewish homeland per se. Now, that's going to be unpopular. Now, that does not mean that their government should have outsized influence within our government. So you can love the people and hate the government, sort of speak. Their government has gotten so far out of hand and so embedded in our government and are manipulating our officials so to an extent that maybe even much deeper with the e-files, that this is where the problem comes in. I can't blame Israel for wanting to see the survival of the Jewish state, especially when Britain and the U.S. helped establish it, and we always were the guardians of that. And that's something that most Americans have to understand. However, what the Jewish government is doing is taking things way, way too far. And they are, at this point, obviously deeply embedded in spying on our own government and manipulating in our government in ways that represent their best interests far more than it does individual Americans.
You are absolutely correct.
Now
I was
that
trying to look up a fact while you were going. I was hoping you were going to keep ranting because I had something to add to that, but I'm trying to look up something just to make sure.
Oh, you're welcome to just keep looking. Until there's someone else here that wants to join and talk, you're welcome. And I'll keep talking about random things, and it might spur on other people that want to join.
Okay. Can I bring you up a question? Actually, I talked about it. Like we got into, you wanted to scare where I was, but I kind of wanted to bring up something. This is a side note till I can figure out what I'm Googling what I'm trying to talk about too. But the thing about soft power and something that happened like way long ago when we cut USA aid, and this is my personal opinion. People don't understand what soft power is. And to show an example of what soft power is, and I can right now, Sudan is going through some stuff right now, to say the least, right? And we used to provide aid for that country, right? Like just not a ton of money, nothing drastically what they're spending on other crazy shit in ICE, God forbid, right now budget.
180 million.
And now
right?
that has stopped, you can see Google Earth images of mass people gonzo. I've been pulling them up all day, and you can see them on Google Earth. And that's just something when you don't have influence in a country. Sometimes just having influence in a country and the threat of being there stops people from getting harmed. And people don't understand what soft power is or the help it can give people to support them to, do other things. And I think this is me saying is I think the U.S. should first help all of its people, but there's so much stuff that we cut from overseas and people think it's a waste of money. That's just not a waste of money, in my opinion.
Yep. And I'll go even further on soft power because people really don't understand is people think soft power is just a waste of money. It's actually a huge investment that pays itself back dozens or hundreds of times, tenfold or 100 times back, because typically when you're involved in giving aid, if you want to help them enrich or dig out minerals out of the ground or extract oil or whatever it may be, is the American companies get first dibs at that. That soft power has so much influence and creates so much goodwill that investment comes back to the American people, usually tenfold over. And if we're not the ones doing it, and it creates a vacuum, and then China, as the other power, or Russia steps in and uses that to their own leverage.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's 100%. That's where you're seeing the shifting of, you're seeing the shifting of, it's, economic power. Like I just heard there was this report, and these some of these CEOs they were from an electric car company in the United States. They went over to China to do hey, how are you making this model of car, right? And they were like, okay, we want to see your factories. They walk into the factory at 11 a.m., pitch black. All the machines are working in silence, but they have tons of other people because they hire salespeople and sales floors. I'm not saying China's the right way or saying anything, but it's showing how far behind we are, I'm saying, compared to China. Think about that technology to then they have the money to the soft power, like you said. We're not only behind in technology, we're behind now in soft power, we're behind in our farming. I don't see how people don't see we're heading towards the banks just took out fucking $500 billion or some shit from the Federal Reserve for cash. Do you guys not see it coming?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
No worries. No, I understand.
It just frustrates me. I feel like you seem like a really chilled guy. That's why I wanted to come up and talk to you, but it's frustrating.
It is very frustrating because people don't understand the America's role in the current world order. Again, the world order that we set up. What's interesting is this live actually just got restricted. So everyone, we're going to see the number starting to dwindle because new people are not going to be joining because I got a restriction notice. I don't think I'm talking about anything sort of out of bounds here.
I don't think we've talked about anything. I said one swear word and I just said I was fucking mad. I'm sorry, but that was it.
No, that shouldn't matter. In lives, that's normal. People F-bomb all the time. If I restart, so I want to know what people think. Is it the names? If I'm calling out people with their names on the graphic, because I was really neutered with the prompt.
Did you build this in TikTok, this background?
No, I built it somewhere else.
Okay, cool. Because if you build it in TikTok, they can read any word that you type with
I
like
think they can even if it's just a PNG,
Oh yeah.
I think the
Oh yeah,
AI can read it.
they're AI in it for sure, dude. I build websites and like for a living, and like I'm like looking into this stuff, and yeah, they're starting to pick up on what you type too now.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, that's even if I restart, some people are saying restart the live. I would have to take out the graphic, I think, because I think they're just going to shadow ban me. I mean, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that word, but anyway, so obviously I'm talking about something that they don't like or they don't think I should be talking about. I wonder if people let me know in the comments, is it maybe just having all the names displayed?
I think it is.
I think it might be. I wonder if I were to mix up the names a little bit and just not use
I
their full
think
names.
no, I don't even think if you use their full names. I think if you black, blue, white it again, right, which is what you have in the percent, like the quotation marks for
Yeah.
the title, right? So just Dark Enlightenment, Zionist, Zeist, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Project 2025, just that, and then underneath it, just put their initials,
Right. I think that might
but
be
put
the
them
way
like
to.
RV, comma in one line, right? They're gonna be like, what is it? Like? It's gonna be more subjective to them.
Yeah, but then unfortunately people won't be able to see the names and so forth. So I had a video that was based on this today as well, and I thought it would be one of the most insightful videos I've made, and I can tell it's already getting shadowed. It's astonishing, and again, I didn't say anything that egregious. But I was hoping it would be a very popular video because most people don't understand these buckets. They think that
Yeah.
these infiltrators in government are sort of just all working together. They're not really working together. They have some commonalities, but you have this clear bucket right here with the WC Nationalists. You have a pretty clear bucket with the P-Israel Zionists, and you have this other bucket. And they're all positioning themselves for ultimate power, even though they have a lot of things in common, meaning they don't want democracy or representative democracy to survive. They would like it to be a dictatorship. So that they have in common. But obviously the WC Nationalists, they want to control our behavior. They want to control how we think and how we behave because they want it to be a religious state. The
And
dark,
I have a theory.
yeah, and
So
the
go ahead.
dark MAGA mafia, they want to control AI, all the media, all the narrative, and they want to exploit us to no end in terms of technology. And then, of course, you have all the different foreign interests in this one in particular. So what's your theory?
My theory,
And no one,
this
you're up
is
next. No one, and then X, you're up next.
this is I can leave after this if you want.
Okay.
This is one of my my positives for anyone who is this from watching, like reading history and doing anything. When the puppet passes, they're going to eat each other alive.
Yep.
It all comes down.
Yep.
Mega's the first
Or
to
they'll
fall.
form a coalition for a period of time. Think of Germany and Russia until
Yep.
somebody backstabs one or the other. You know.
Yep. And then it's all out war.
Yep.
And
And
it'll take about 2 weeks.
and because you don't have the puppet anymore to rein everybody in, it'll just be chaos.
Chaos.
Just total
And
chaos.
I'm praying for it. Have a good night, my guy.
No,
Good
you're
talk.
welcome to stay around, by the way. We can have,
okay.
if we can have
Sorry, I thought you were kicking me out to talk to someone else.
No, that's all right. Sometimes I do. If you're normally chill and you don't mind hanging in, you can leave at any time, of course.
No,
but
I'm going to
you're
mute for
welcome
a
to
little
stay.
minute. Let you talk to this individual. If I got something to say, I'll come up.
Cool. What's up, no one? Good to see you again.
Hey, TK, how are you?
I'm doing okay. A little annoyed at the moment about how this live is going.
I've been watching the chat, and it's like, I hope you're not watching it because there's some dandies in the chat, or at least there used to be. I don't know if they're still there. But
Yeah, there
anyway.
was some. No, I don't care about people in the chat, what they say.
Okay.
You know, that doesn't bother me a bit. I'm just bothered that YouTube, sorry, not YouTube, TikTok is restricting this live and it's not sharing it out anymore.
I'm like scrolling back going, what was said in the chat that may be triggered? But you may be right. It may be just a combination of what's in those three circles that's causing it. But you know,
maybe in the chat too.
I see there. Yeah, probably. But a couple names that popped in my head: the Koch brothers, for instance, and the Waltons. You know, what circle do they fall into?
That's a great question. The Kochs, they fall into, I think,
because you don't hear much about them lately. You know, and yet you know they've got their fingers in whatever they can get their fingers in.
Well, they're really old, right? The main, patriarchs are extremely old, so they fall into the blue. They fall into the blue bubble.
Okay.
It's interesting that I left them out. Obviously, there's dozens and dozens of people in each group, but
Oh
I
yeah.
only
Oh
had to
yeah.
have a microcosm of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they are pro-Israel.
Okay. And the other thing I'm curious about, have you heard or know of a guy named Richard Wolff? He's an economist that he talks about all kinds of stuff, but he's very, very insightful and what we're going through right now. And his lately, his basic thing is saying, look, this empire that we have here, it's over. It's over. And China is now stepping up into the place where we used to be and are falling out of. Well, what do you think about that?
Um, Two things. He could be right, and he could be wrong. The reason that he very well may be wrong is because China is going to have is having a massive demographic problem. They also are not the United States in terms of our resources and in terms of our geography and our placement in the world. So
True.
even though China is obviously controlling a lot of their economics really well as a socialistic style economy, with the situation with them losing their demographics and having Russia on their doorstep and not having all the resources that they truly need, we are much better positioned overall. China is probably, people are so fearful of China, and they should be in terms of AI and in terms of some technology. But in the old school world of thinking about demographics and their placement of the world and geopolitics and those things, China is dying. So how that all shakes out is interesting. And the empire being dead, meaning the United States, he may be right, but he doesn't have to be right. So this nonsense that the empire is dead and will
Not
die
dead,
or
not
dying,
necessarily dead, dying. Yeah,
right.
dying.
It is. I think he's right that it is going in that direction, but it's not, I don't believe it's too late to salvage it.
Okay.
If, because at the end of the day, if we want to be a representative democracy and we have enough people that truly stand up, we could bring it right back to where it was and even better. Now, will that happen? It seems very unlikely. So it seems like we'll continue to be going down a very slippery slope. But as Warren Buffett says, is never count out America. And America's democracy, if it retains some semblance of democracy and law and order and its place in the world and its resource richness and its wealth, we're not going to be that easy to replace. So he might be right, he might be wrong. That's one of my hot take on it.
Okay. Interesting. And just specifically, name a couple when you say resources, what are you referring to? Food? Are you referring to natural elements? Like what resources are you referring to?
All of it. So when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to minerals, when it comes to oil and natural gas, the United States is one of the very few countries and the only country at such a scale that can be completely self-sufficient. We don't need anything from anyone with the exception of a couple technology minerals, which we also have. We just don't mine it yet. So we're the only country in the world that has more than enough agriculture, more than enough oil and gas, more than enough of virtually every mineral to be completely self-sufficient. So whether that's to to build militaries and so forth. So that's what I mean. China is missing like oil and gas. That has virtually no oil and gas.
True.
They have some deep minerals and so forth.
Well, and we know where they're getting their soybeans now. So it's like they're not missing those anymore.
Well, they weren't missing them before. Now they have to buy just the same amount they were buying last year, and now we're going to give them technology from NVIDIA. What a deal that is.
I know, huh? Anyway, I heard you say it's okay for us to just come hang out, and if you're going to kind of go some random subjects, and then we want to chime in. Is that okay? I mean, or you can kick me if you want.
I had something to say to that economist thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, please.
About us dying. So I like to look at history always, right? When it like comes to people saying we're like, has this event happened in history before? And like you had the 2008 housing crisis and all that stuff, and America rebounded, and you had this and yada yada yada, and it goes on from there. But like, let's talk about the greatest like the recession and the hardest time America rebounds to it was World War I, which was 1914 and 1918. Bankrupt us. Women were being gone to work in the sheet meals and make planes. And then the Great Depression hit from 1929 to 1939, and immediately after 1939 we entered in World War II, and we still came out on top. So we are nowhere near that level of spending on military, spending in men and people, spending on like losing all of our money and people being poor. Like, we're not there yet. We can get there, but we're nowhere near there. And
Well,
we
you
still
can't
bounce
argue.
back.
You can't argue that the U.S. dollar does not have the strength it used to.
You can.
You can.
But I'm saying the people can come together, and that's you, me, and the host right here.
Yeah, well, this is the question that keeps swimming around in my head, and again, I refer back to George Carlin because that guy was a genius. Where he came up with some of the stuff can be so applied to what's going on now. But he asked the question, if it's just the politicians, then where are all the people of conscience? Why aren't they stepping up? And TK, this coming back to you again, this idea about putting other representatives to replace the career politicians. Where are we going to get them from? Where do they come from? Because look at why do we keep getting this garbage in, garbage out politicians? Where are all these people of conscience going to come from?
Well, I'll say one thing real quick,
yeah.
and let him go. The mayor race in New York right now is a prime example.
Okay.
He crowdsourced himself a year ago from talking on the streets to people and just seeing what they felt and doing what they wanted to do. And it's not the ones that are backed by the Democrat Party is not helping the Democrats right now. The youth and the young and the people with visions.
No, they're too freaking spineless is what's going on.
Yep. Yeah. But look at the mayor race in New York. Okay, go ahead, host. I'm sorry.
So you're supporting Rama. How do you say his name? Ramasamy.
Madami, right?
Zuran? Is it Zuran?
No, the guy that's running for mayor.
Yeah, Zuran Ramadani, isn't it?
Ramadani. I couldn't remember.
Mamdani. It's Mamdani.
Ramdani.
Mom with an M. Mamdami.
Mom. Sorry, I'm just trying. Yeah, and it's Zoran, right? Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah, Zoran Mamdani.
You are in support of his being elected. Is that what I'm getting?
I think he's the best candidate they have.
I agree.
Now, to answer your question, no one. I've already done these videos and polls where I've had some of the videos have had hundreds of thousands of views, and the comments were overwhelmingly that there are millions of people that have moral integrity in the United States that would love to represent Americans and go to temporary civic service. The problem is they don't stand up anymore and raise their hand to do so because they know it's sort of futile, right? They can go to office as junior senators or junior congressmen, and their parties will actively work against them. You have to toe the party line. And most people, good people, know that. They're not going to sacrifice their lives to go into this state of politics, this disgusting, toxic state of politics. Why would anyone want to do that? And so there's very few people that are willing, of decent or high integrity and morality, that want to go into politics because it's controlled by both parties, and both parties have so much corruption from big money, and the leadership of those parties has been in charge for so long is that you really can't, in fact, change. There are a lot of people that go into office that think they're going to do good things, but then they get beat down over time. So True. I think it has to be more of a wholesale switch and something that's really hopeful and a hopeful message to get enough people that would want to run. Because I know there's millions of people that would want to do it and serve as temporary civic servants, but why do it what you have to expose yourself to, your personal.
So how do we get them? Is this like a wipe the slate clean and start all over with all fresh new people, get everyone that's in now out and have all these other, or is it a slower transition? What's the procedure, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
I only see it happening two ways. I think it's really simple. It's not easy, so don't confuse easy and simple. It's straightforward.
I don't expect it to be easy. No.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, but it is straightforward. There's two ways that it could happen, and that is you have a generational leader that steps up early enough and captures the hearts and minds of a large segment of America. The Abraham Lincoln type, the JFK type, etc. Someone really steps up, and then more people want to come into office. I don't see any of that on the horizon. The only other way to do it is if you have a grassroots movement based around something that most people would agree with, and that's what I try and promote, is the 28th and 29th Amendment, and you grow that grassroots movement, but you can't just have 1 million people because 1 million people can't affect change. You have to have tens of millions of people to do it. So the movement would have to get so large, or not so large, it would have to get 50 million strong in order for you to then start a process. Because if you start the process too early, both parties have so much control over the system that you can't win any elections. It's like an independent trying to win an election. It doesn't happen because people don't want to throw away their vote. But if 50 million, if you knew there was 50 million people or 70 million people that wanted to clean house and wanted to eliminate corruption from our political system, and that's why I try and do these lives, whether it's me or somebody else, it doesn't matter. If someone would become relevant enough, right? Someone steps up and is relevant enough and then can start bringing that movement together. And there needs to be probably hundreds of people like what I'm trying to do, preaching a very similar thing to grow that movement, because over time, so I know this sounds impossible, and it is difficult. It's extremely difficult, but it's not impossible. Hope is more powerful than hate, even though negativity is louder than positivity. So it just takes a lot of time and pressure in the right circumstances, the right environment, and the right time and pressure. And it's possible. Not saying it's likely, but you have to try, right?
I think what you're referring to is something called critical mass.
That's right. Network effects and critical mass, correct.
Right. And no, it's not impossible. It's just it just seems like a very difficult uphill battle, but all the best results have come from difficult uphill battles, unless I'm missing something in history, because look at all the mountains we've climbed before.
Right. My saying is all bold ideas sound impossible until they become possible. So let's just use I wake up every morning like most of us and think, man, I wish we could do something better for our kids, for our futures. Like what's happening in this world is just insanity. So no different. So then I think, okay, I've built communities in the past with millions of people, and I don't want to run for office. So what can I do to help organize the movement? So I think, well, I have some experience in the technology front, building communities. So I'll start here on TikTok and on other platforms. And right now I went from 20,000 followers 2 weeks ago to 36,000 now, right? So not even a drop in the bucket, not even a ripple in a little puddle. However, if 36,000 becomes 100,000, still nothing. But if 100,000 becomes 1 million, you know what? There's a tiny little bit of a wave that could grow. And again, it could be somebody else too, and that's okay. But once you get to 1 million, you start to get to network effects and critical mass. Then you go from 1 million to 10 million much faster than you did from 0 to 1 million. And then once that happens, you don't have to get to 50 million. You don't even have to think about a goal of 50 million yet. You just have to think, how do I get to 1 million? Because once you get to 1 million, you can get to 2 million really fast. And then you can get to 10 million quite fast as well. So
milestones.
Yeah, everything is milestones and step by step. Whether someone gets there, someone could get there. And that's what we need to happen for have anything like this outside of a generational leader that comes out of nowhere.
I had 775,000 before I got banned.
Holy shit, really?
On my other account.
What were you talking about?
Yeah, I was on. I just about hit 50,000 on my last account in TikTok before they banned me. So
mine was like, my average video view was like 300,000. I went by another name. It was You Decide, also known as I Am Chris Woe. And I used to talk about just like government documents, the JFK, stuff like that. Like what they say is not what they do. Media illiteracy, how like stuff. Just a bunch of different stuff. And I did one video on, I got banned for this one video. There was a Reddit theory that there's a serial in this town in Illinois. And I made a video off the theory because it was oddly suspicious, the amount of bodies that were turning up in like the past 14 days. And I made the news that night in the town. The video went like 5 million views in 24 hours.
So why'd you get banned? You got banned from that one video or multiple
One
infractions?
video, because I reached out and then I made a response video to them. The reporter said they put it in it. After that video, I was wiped out. I asked why, what I violate, what I do. They just referred the entire general rule book to me.
Yeah, they always do that. They say, "Well, you violated the guideline." Well, what specifically did I do? And I found out it because it was a meme I had put up that had the N word in it, but not the black person N word, the N with the Z in it, that word.
Oh,
And yeah, that got me kicked off of
See,
TikTok.
I'm so naive. I don't even know what word that is.
Germany.
Oh, I
Germany
got you.
N-word.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yep, thank
Germany.
you. Sorry,
There
I
you
was
go.
just trying to figure what they were banning. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was like, wow, really? And didn't
Yeah, I
even
got banned in
I
like
of course
2023.
yeah, I appealed it and everything, and they just didn't want to hear nothing about it. They're like, nope.
So that's the thing about what I think no one you've read my plan is that step one is building relevancy across multiple social platforms so
Correct.
that can't happen. And then step
Which is another reason I wanted to talk to you too, because you did I saw a real quick little short video of yours showing all your equipment. Like,
Hey, I'm gonna have a good
what
night, gentlemen. By
see
the
you,
way,
man.
I'm gonna
Thanks for
listen, but
joining. Appreciate it.
I'm jumping out. Appreciate you, dude. Keep it up.
Have a good one, Lord.
Thank you. You too.
Anyway, I saw something about it showed like all your equipment and stuff, and I'm like, oh, look at that, because I used to do I used to be a DJ online and for terrestrial FM radio, playing classic rock music. But I've got a mic, I've got a mixer, I've got all kinds of stuff, but it was all hooked in through a Windows machine, and I don't have a Windows machine anymore. So I was really intrigued by looking at all your equipment, wondering maybe at some point I can get an equipment list from you of because I want to get back on the air, and that's why what attracted me to your show is like, maybe we can figure out a way to, to get me at least helping to do what you're doing,
Right. The more people, the better, right? So that was actually, I was just testing a new feature from TikTok where you upload an image and it sort of does some AI stuff to it. So I was curious. I was like, oh, let me just take a photo of that. So as you can tell, it was a really simple setup. It's just a Rodecaster Duo with a couple different iPhones for the cameras hooked up to a Mac. It is a little complex to set it up, especially if you want to broadcast on multiple platforms.
Right.
So it took me maybe a week to really figure it out. And I didn't try and broadcast on anything more than YT and here on TikTok because that was the easiest way. Because, you have some that are broadcasting in vertical format. And then of course you got some broadcasting in horizontal format. So you need two different cameras and how you pipe it through the phones into the computer and out to the mixer is interesting.
Right.
So you can just look at the photo. There's really only what is it? One piece of equipment plus two iPhones and just a Mac. That's really it.
Yeah, I've got a MacBook Pro, so it's got a really good processor in it. So
yeah.
Anyway, what was the other thing I was going to ask you? Doggone it, now I forgot.
So while you're getting your thoughts together, so the 23 people that are here, unfortunately, this live has been restricted by TikTok for something that I'm not sure. Maybe it's the names that I listed here. Maybe it's something that I mentioned. Maybe it was too many comments, but the live got restricted and is not being sent out to any more people. So we're getting a little bit of a shadow bead here on TikTok, which is unfortunate.
Oh, I remember what it was. The last time I was on with you in this, on your, a couple days ago, I guess it was, I listened to the broadcast that went over on YouTube, and my voice never was gone. Like you were sitting there listening to me, but I couldn't hear me on that broadcast. I don't know what happened, but
oh shit. Okay, thanks.
I thought you should know.
Yeah,
that.
thanks for letting me know. Sometimes that does happen. I do need to check that more carefully in the future. I wonder if that's
And then the other
happening
thing, since there was someone in the chat that mentioned the wealth disparity, and I haven't heard you talk much about your feelings about how to resolve that issue.
Well, I think that one's pretty simple.
We're seeing this wealth disparity unlike it's ever been, ever.
Yep.
And when 6 people or 8 people, whatever it is, have more wealth than the bottom 50% of the planet, that something's wrong with that.
Well, it's an easy fix too. By the way, Mom Andrews something time says it's because of the word
is real.
Yeah, I wonder. That would be so ridiculous if that's the problem, right? Like so absurd. You can't leave a country's name in there. Anyway, so when it comes to wealth disparity, and like I tell people, I have my own personal views on things, and I don't give a shit if people agree with all of my personal views on specific issues, because that's not really relevant. I will try and convince people that my views are correct, but so will everybody else. It doesn't mean they are correct. But what I want people to understand is if you don't agree with a personal issue or a personal view on something, that's totally cool. Come up here and tell me why. We can have a little debate about it. But again, I really don't care. So I don't like to get into those arguments because I only care that everybody cares about two things. And that's removing career politicians and making sure politicians can't be a career and eliminating all the corruption in our government. And that's something I view those as values and principles and not specific views on issues. So when someone hears me say something that they don't quite agree with, just look past it. Don't have to agree with me on everything, right? Just look at the agenda or the goal or the motive or the objective, which is to bring representation back to all Americans and back to the people as much as possible. That's what I totally want to be about and not get into views or arguments over issues. So with that said, the issue on wealth disparity is really simple. The absurdity of this is that corporations and billionaires, not billionaires, billionaires and corporations, but mostly the ultra wealthy. We're not talking about the 1%, because the 1% is anyone that makes about $700,000 or more. Yes, that's a lot of money, but that's not what we're talking about. So when we talk about raising taxes, and it's not really raising taxes, it's about making sure the corporations and billionaires are paying their fair share of taxes. So in the 60s, the corporate taxes used to generate 30% of all government revenue and taxation came from corporations. Now it's 8 to 10%. And the ultra wealthy are now hiding vast amount of their wealth behind different vehicles due to the laws that have been changed over the past 20 years that allow them to have all these different tax havens. So if you do the math and you use GPT to do an analysis, you realize that these corporations and the billionaires, I call it stealing, because they're stealing in between $2 and $3 trillion a year by not paying their fair share of taxes or the types of taxes they used to pay back in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
So if they did that, we could pay down the national debt if we wanted to, if that was a good idea to do that. You could pay down the entire national debt in 13 years. Now, with that said, you also should make sure you reduce waste and fraud out of government. So it's not just a revenue issue, it's also a fraud and a waste issue as well. It can be two things at once. And no one should be able to have hundreds of billions of dollars, and the ridiculous notion that they just work harder and they deserve it is such bullshit. It's no, they cheat. Everyone that has $100 billion has cheated their way and stolen the money because they're not paying their fair share of taxes, because they would never become worth tens of billions or hundreds of billions of dollars unless they had those advantages that regular people don't have. Now, then you'd have less inflation and so forth, and people would have more money. The wealth disparity is a manufactured disparity based on the laws and regulations that are in place. And additionally, most people don't realize that since we are the wealthiest nation in the world with the most resources, there is no reason whatsoever that anyone in this country should starve or should even not have housing.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. And X in the chat is asking if you're going to bring him up because he looks like he's getting impatient.
Oh, my apologies, X. I didn't even see you there. So yes, X, I'm going to bring you in right now. My apologies. So thanks for mentioning that, no one.
By the way, the back in the 50s and 60s, I think the tax rate for the wealthy was 93%, if I'm not mistaken. But my question is, okay, fine. How can we get back to that? Maybe not even that much, but at least their fair share. But it seems to me if taxes get raised for the rich, okay, that's when maybe the Democrats are in power, but they're not going to stay in power. So then what's to stop the Republicans from getting back in and just changing it back to the way it is now? How do you lock it in and keep it that way?
As long as the representation is representing the people, it would stay that way. If the money, the corruption by the special interests and the wealthy infects our political system, then it will happen again. If you actually can make sure that politicians can't stay in office and they can't be bribed by taking lobbyist money, it most likely doesn't happen again.
All right.
So Citizens United needs to go, basically.
1 second here.
Yeah.
Sorry, go
So
ahead.
you guys are both arguing right now for an 80 to 90% top tax bracket.
Who argued that? When did we argue that?
I
Well,
didn't argue that.
he said that, and then you agreed with it. So
No,
No.
I said that's what it was back in the 50s and
so
60s.
you don't think it should be that way though?
I don't know. I don't have the solution.
X, do you know what?
I just know that they're not paying their fair share right now, and they should.
But this
be.
is
And I
the
think
thing. Hold on. It's very easy to say that they're not paying their fair share, but it's very easy to say that if you don't know and you don't have an idea what the fair share should be.
True.
Right?
True.
No, I have ideas what the fair share should be.
Solution, right? You can't say they're not paying their fair share, because
course
what does
we
that
can.
mean? What is
So-
it? No, but what does that
All
mean?
right, so let's take the example of the 90% tax rate, just as an example. I'm not suggesting it should be that. Do you know what the 90% tax rate, who that applied to in the 1960s?
Rich white men.
No. Do you know? Give me a specific. Do you know? You can say, I don't know, and that's fine.
You can say Rockefeller, right?
Anyone earning $4 million a year or more. In the 1960s money, today's money, that's like $40 million a year.
And it was only on the money over 4 million, not anything under 4 million.
That's right.
And listen, I can agree with you guys to a certain sense, right? Because if you raise the corporate tax rate and you raise the personal tax rate, it incentivizes business owners and people that are making a ton of personal income right now to reinvest that money into the business, right? So that's good for America. I agree with you to a certain extent, right? But people in the last 5-10 years have said the Laffer curve is bullshit, right? And okay, yeah, it may be bullshit to a certain extent, but certainly you can't tax businesses and individuals 99% at the highest tax bracket and expect people to stay here, because we have a globalist economy right now, right? So
let me play devil's advocate. What do you mean by expect people to stay here? Where are they going to go?
Oh, there's a ton of countries who have moved to Germany and Ireland, etc.
What, the companies move there?
Yes, they're corporate entities.
Oh, let's say that happens. So what, you think we're helpless as an American society and government that we can we do have mechanisms to prevent that from happening. So we have the largest, most wealthy consumer base in the world, right? The amount of consumer spending in America. So if you have an American company that decides to move somewhere else for the strict reason to avoid taxation, there are mechanisms we can use in terms of regulations to prevent them from doing exactly that.
Well, not regulations, sanctions, really, right?
Well, however you want to term it, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Well, sanctions are different than regulations.
Okay, so forth. So you're saying they'll just move somewhere else, and I'm saying, okay, then maybe you don't have access to the American market the same way you used to have. And when you talk about billionaires, they're not going to move their real estate and all their assets to China, because that can be taken. It's a socialistic system. They don't own property there. It can be taken by the government at any time. They're not going to move to Europe because Europe has also fair taxation. So this thought that this fear they're going to move is what, lack of a better word, poppycock, old school word. Because also, if they do move, or companies do move out of this country and they are sanctioned or put regulations on, guess what that does? That creates more competition. There's always someone in the American capitalistic system that will come up and provide another product.
Sure, that's what I was going to say. So they pick up and leave, but they leave a void. They leave a void that somebody's going to want to fill.
Look at Google, right? Look at Alphabet, Google's parent company, right? Their corporate entity is tied to Northern Ireland, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not Ireland, but Northern Ireland, right? Mm-hmm. And they've been there for decades. And they're not there for no reason. They didn't just pick Northern Ireland just because they wanted cold and rainy weather. They're there for a reason.
Yeah,
right?
taking advantage of, taking advantage for the most, they're doing what they're supposed to do, which is look out for their shareholder
they have
interests.
A fiduciary responsibility.
Of course, right? They do. And we have a fiduciary responsibility as a government to protect its society and its people. So you have to find the balance there.
All right. You see, and I didn't even want to go this way, but you said it's society and it's people. Are you talking about American citizens or people who live in America?
American citizens, the society
Okay.
representation
All right,
for the
good.
people by the people.
Good. So you're talking about citizens.
Of course.
That's good to know.
Of course.
Because
you think I'm for open borders or something?
To be honest, I don't. I've been and we've actually talked once before.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember, not the specifics, but I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not for open borders. Open borders is nonsense. It's not a fiction.
So the whole reason that I even requested to join up here was because you used the word they. I think you may have been referring to this black bubble, dark MAGA mafia, when you said they, but you said they want a dictatorship. Those were the words that you used, and I think that and I the last time I joined, I think you had a prompt that said something like the two-party system is broken or something like that, right? So,
what
do you deny that to be true?
Yes, I think I.
You don't agree that it's broken?
Well, you can say it's broken, but it's still the best option.
No, I don't think it's the best option.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to agree with it.
And by the way, X, so I did when I don't like to use the term they because that sounds conspiratorial. I do like to be nuanced and actually apply it. So I will reference they if I had said their name a few times. So it probably was the dark MAGA mafia, and it wasn't my opinion or this Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel specifically, JD Vance, Curtis Yarvin. They've talked about wanting to install a CEO dictator, right? They want the executive to have as much power as possible. They've said it in their own words. So I'm not saying when I say they want this, it's not some opinion. They have literally advocated for that. And they believe a small group of powerful elitists from Silicon Valley, in this case, should have representation or should control government because democracy is inefficient and has failed, and they believe they can fix it. Their words.
That may be true, and I don't know. Like, all right, I guess I'll ask you. I don't like to ask questions like this, but I mean, what do you think about the whole Doge initiative? Do you think that was a bad idea, or? I think it's necessary if we're going to survive.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but they wrapped it up. They wrapped it up in a pretty bow and called it something that it was never going to be. All that was is Elon Musk finding a way to get rid of all the people that were bringing charges on him and getting him in trouble and eliminating them.
But that's not a nuanced take. That's just wrong.
That's actually not wrong. Every agency that he went into, he dismantled the agency with the objective to remove investigations into Twitter, Tesla, and SpaceX. Every one of them had investigations.
That's a very good talking point. It's a very good talking point.
It's not a talking point. It's fact.
Well, it's kind of how did USAID ever investigate any of his companies?
How did USAID? I'd have to do the research, but they actually.
Well, they didn't. It's USAID, right?
Okay.
They're
let's not argue about the specifics because.
Okay.
No. Hold it. Just let me finish. Because we're on the same page that as an idea, a Department of Government Efficiency is a good idea. What I'm claiming is the application of it was undemocratic and not only immoral, but most likely illegal as well, because we're a democracy and we need transparency. And you can't have a billionaire that pays $400 million to help someone get elected so that they can come into the government agencies and dismantle them without congressional oversight. This is ridiculous. And if you're for that, you're not for the rule of law. So while the idea has merit, the entire execution of the idea was, at the very least, the perception was reality that it was ridiculous and against the law. And perception is very important.
Right. And I can understand exactly what you're saying, right? But you also have to view it the other way, right? Like, and I know you're not a supporter, or maybe you are, but you're not a staunch supporter of the Democratic Party, right? you're
Correct.
for a third party,
That's right.
right?
Yep.
So this political environment that we're in, right? The same could be said for ICE agents going into cities and saying, well, I maybe I agree with the idea, but people say, well, people who are here for 10, 20 years, they should not be deported. And it's like, okay, what do you mean 10 or 20 years, right? So, and they're, well, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure, I mean 10 or 20 years, I mean that's what I think. It's like, well, we're talking about legislation here. We're not talking about, your general thoughts on what's going on, right? And I can agree with you that yes, everyone deserves due process, right?
Well, it's actually not due process, right? Something I learned recently as well, because I referenced due process. It's actually not due process. It's a hearing. Everyone in America has the same laws applied to them as whether you're a citizen or not by the Constitution. And I'm for the rule of law. So the Constitution says whether you're here illegally or illegally, you have the same rights. And historically speaking, we haven't always applied the rights, like with Obama deporting 3 million people, but he did have hearings for everybody with the exception of people that were known criminals and were on those criminality lists. So that's what you can make an argument for, is we are clearly breaking the rule of the land in the Constitution in how it's being done today, even though I would never disagree that if you are here illegally, however, the Congress and the executive branch and morally as Americans, we need to be better. This is ridiculous and this is immoral, and we're the United States of America, and we've treated World War II prisoners 1,000 times better than we are treating illegal immigrants. And that's not the right way.
Those Japanese imprisonment camps were pretty terrible, right?
They were pretty bad. That's true.
Yeah, there were. But that's how we treated. It's interesting. We did treat the Germans and the Japanese very differently. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
and there needs to be a clearer, cleaner, more efficient path to citizenship. I don't know who's going to work on that, but you have to at least agree that there are people that are here undocumented, but they are contributing to society. They are not criminals. They are not committing crimes. They are hardworking, honest people. They just the tick in their armor is that they are undocumented. So how do we get those people that are willing to contribute to the society in this country an easier path to citizenship than they have now?
So here's my response to this, and I don't even understand how anyone would disagree with this. But people do, and people would say that this is a horrible view, right? I think everyone that's undocumented, and it's ridiculous that local police departments, local and state police departments don't just detain people when they say, oh yeah, I'm not a U.S. citizen. They should be detained immediately, get sent to federal detention, and then they leave, and then maybe they have an expedited route for citizenship, or at least a permanent residence here in the U.S., right? And secondly, if a big argument of people on the left and people who agree with undocumented immigrants being here in generally, a big argument that they use is, well, who's going to pick our strawberries? Who's going to pick our blueberries, etc.? Who's going to work on the farms? You're going to hurt farmers. It's like, okay, so you're admitting that, right? So how about we just make it a rule? Yeah, you can have a visa that you can come here and work for $10 an hour or $15 an hour, $20 an hour, whatever it is that farmers are paying these people, right? And how about we don't act like, oh yeah, well you're discriminating against illegal immigrants, and then at the same time, who's going to pick your strawberries? It's like, well, how about you just say, I'm fine with that, I accept it, it's a win-win, we get cheaper products, and these people can afford to send money back to their home country, and they live a better life than they would wherever they came from. And let's just admit, okay, maybe it's morally wrong, but it's a win-win, right? Well, but no one wants to admit that.
Morally wrong to whom?
Well, that I don't think it's morally wrong, but I think a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, you know, someone's picking strawberries for $15
See,
an
I
hour.
think
Yeah,
these
it's
arguments.
morally
So
wrong."
I'm not saying there's no people that would disagree with you, X. What I'm suggesting is,
No, I think most people disagree with me.
I don't know, but let's say
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And this is an issue that is red chum for the division of America. This
Correct.
immigration issue. There's so many bigger issues that we need to worry about, and we need to be better as Americans. Obama deported 3 million illegal immigrants.
No,
At this,
hold on. Most of those were turned away at the border. They were not deported from within the United States.
let's do the research on that. I won't question
Do
that
it,
until
do
I've
it.
done the research already, and it said 3 million people were deported under Obama over
Yes,
his 8
they
years.
were technically deported. That's the word that's used, but they were turned away at the border.
All right, but see, the problem is, we're getting so far away off a topic, and
Yeah,
this
but
is
that's the
something that.
thing, man.
What's that?
No, I mean that's the thing. It's like oh well, that's not what I believe, so we're getting off topic. I mean, like yeah, we're getting into the weeds a little
No,
bit.
I would have to. I'm not going to Google. We're off of today's topic so far, and we're just getting into the typical divide and conquer strategy by having right versus sort of progressive view on this issue to argue about something that is not really the core problem. It's our democracy is being stolen by the corruption of these particular three groups.
This is what I totally disagree with, and the whole reason I joined was that you said that these people in this bubble, maybe you weren't talking about the right as a whole, but these dark MAGA folks, I assume that's who you meant by that.
They're not MAGA. They're Silicon Valley billionaires. They only support Trump for their.
You have dark MAGA mafia here.
The reason is because they've been referred to that in the past, and it's because Elon Musk wore the dark MAGA hat, the black MAGA hat, instead of the red MAGA hat. And it was symbolism that he's not part of MAGA, that he's part of dark MAGA.
Sure. I'll agree with that, right?
Yeah,
But
it's just a distinction.
You said that
It's
they
don't
want a
read into it too much.
dictatorship. Those were your words. You said they want a dictatorship.
They do, in their words, not mine.
Who said that? Which one of these people said that?
Curtis Yarvin, Dark Enlightenment, J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel have all said it.
You have Curtis Yarvin here?
He's not in that list right there, but look him up. Look up Curtis Yarvin and Dark Enlightenment, and then look at the people.
You don't have him there, right? So J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, David Sachs. I can't see your last one.
Mark Andreessen, I don't think has said it particularly, but Dark MAGA Mafia.
Have the top 4 said that?
Yes.
Who?
Go look it up.
All 4 of them, dude. Look it up.
Which one of those 4 has said they want a dictatorship?
Oh, look it up. They don't use the word. They use a CEO style. It's just code for a dictatorship. And they've said they want to consolidate power around the executive. These are just words to say dictatorship. So don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. No, go look up in Dark Enlightenment.
But
clearly you don't know what it is.
Saying we should run the country, the U.S. government, like a CEO would run a business.
We don't believe in democracy. We believe in
should be a
democracy has
dictatorship.
failed. We believe that there should be a CEO-style dictatorship. Look it up. Just go look it up.
I don't disagree with the fact that we should have a leader of the U.S. government run it like a CEO. I think that's
ridiculous.
perfectly fine.
That's where we just disagree.
That's where we completely disagree.
I think that is the absolute worst idea in a long history of bad ideas.
You guys associate CEO with dictator, and I do not.
That's
I think
problem.
CEO means you have a financial or a fiduciary responsibility to protect the U.S. taxpayers. That's the differentiation.
So no, this is the differential you're making up in your mind because you haven't read and listened to these people talk about these issues in private, actually recorded and talked about it in public forums. So just go do the research and then come back to me and say they never said that if you believe that. Just go do it.
But they may have said that, man. But that does not mean that they want a dictatorship.
People tell you who they are.
That's a very strong word.
No,
it's a very strong word.
No, it's not. People are coy sometimes. Well, listen, we have differences of opinions on that. I would guarantee you're wrong because you're not being sensible in this fact. When someone says they want can consolidate power around the executive and they should have a CEO-like individual, that is nothing more than code for dictatorship. Now, if you don't want to agree with that, that's your prerogative.
Yeah. But I don't see why you have any more reason to agree with that than I have to disagree with that.
Okay.
Because a CEO
has a fiduciary
is less interested in people. CEOs put profit before people. They all do it. Name me one CEO that doesn't do that. They all have
You're
to answer to their
absolutely
board.
right. You're
They all have to
absolutely
answer to the
right.
board of trustees
You're
and
absolutely
And
right.
a government is not a business.
Guess what? Maybe it should be
No, it should not, because then
maybe it
I don't
should though, right? Because
no,
I
X,
think
I'm sorry.
I think you've seen in the last 20 years we're spiraling out of control. This can't
because
go
of the
in the same
corruption, not
direction.
because we're spiraling out of control. We're spiraling out of control because our representatives don't represent the people first. They're representing profit over people. They're representing corporations.
The
They're
U.S.
representing.
government does not have a profit. There's no surplus. There's a deficit. $2 trillion every year.
What's your point?
So that's not a profit. You're running a deficit every single year.
I don't understand. We didn't in the 90s. We don't have to now.
Yeah, I said the last 20 years. We've been since 2001. We've been running a deficit.
Again, if I would argue that if you didn't have over the last 20 years, you know how much tax law has changed for the corporations and billionaires to not pay their fair share of
and
taxes?
there you go. There's a different conversation that I'm willing to have. And sure, I'm willing to raise the top tax bracket to maybe 40%. Right? That sounds reasonable to me.
70%.
Yeah, well,
It doesn't matter what you think or no one thinks or X you think or what I think. All that matters is that we have representation that represents the people, and they should figure that out.
Right.
What does that even? I'm sorry, but what does that even mean, dude? I mean, who should figure it out? The
Congress.
representation?
What do you mean? 435 House of Representatives and 100 senators.
Because guess what? No Democratic or anyone in Congress, for that matter, is arguing for a 70% or higher than 40%.
Of course not, because that would be political
tax rate.
suicide.
Exactly my point, right?
Right.
So, and we can bring it back to your point of, there should be a third party. But guess what? That's not happening anytime soon, right?
Well, that's not necessarily true. You're probably right. You are probably right, but you're not necessarily right. 1992 had it showed that it could happen. That's in your mind, in most people's mind, in most Americans, they believe it can't happen. And that's the problem. While it is difficult for it to happen, it could happen if enough people believed it could happen.
And it got very close to happening when Ross Perot was running, but because of that hiccup in his, whatever happened with his daughter or whatever that whole thing was, and he stepped away, and that threw a wrench in the whole works. But that we were on the way to a third party with Ross Perot.
Okay, but really what it seems like for me is you guys are arguing against Republican values. That's kind of what's going on here.
No, not all of them. No, absolutely not. So you're arguing against MAGA values or MAGA's lack of values.
What's the difference? Because I don't align myself with quote unquote MAGA, right? And I think most Republicans don't nowadays.
All right, so
they may say, "Oh yeah, we're MAGA," because you have all these. And I don't even want to say all these liberals, but you have all this craziness going on where it's just like, okay,
what is all that craziness? I see. That's what I don't understand. What craziness?
Well, really, why quote unquote MAGA and Trump won in 24 was cultural issues.
That's
There's
right.
nothing else than that.
Yeah, and some of those are highly manufactured cultural issues. Not to say they weren't there, but the overemphasizing of these cultural issues. You're right. Part of America said enough. We're stop going so far with some of these liberal progressive values, specifically related to trans and so forth. And they saying enough of that. I understand that.
Okay, and let me tell you, and this is an anecdote, so it really doesn't matter. But let me tell you, I graduated high school in 2021, and guess what? 40% and 12% of my class was trans. 40% was in the LGBTQIA to LGBTQIA plus community, right? 40%, 12% was trans.
Where are you from?
That's an anecdote, right? I understand that doesn't speak for the whole country, but this is what's going on. You may not believe it, but this is what's going on in America.
Listen, I have 4 kids that are your age. And that may be an anecdote of your area, but that's not what's going on at that level. But yes, I understand it's a cultural issue, and that's why they voted for MAGA. But to then just disregard the idea that we should break the Constitution and we shouldn't follow the rule of the land for every other issue is just absurd. It makes no sense. And it means that those people are not thinking clearly about if they have any values. Anyway, we could go on all night long. I actually do have to shut down for the night. So X, I appreciate you being here. We can have a civil discussion and we can have disagreements about things. That's totally fine. I don't have to believe in your views. You don't have to believe in mine. That's
and
so
listen. I believe that maybe we should move away from the two-party system. I don't think it's reasonable, but I think that would be the ultimate goal.
See,
right?
all that matters.
We agree on that.
Yeah, and what I promote is, while as difficult as it may seem, or impossible to some people as it may seem, if we just disrupted the two-party systems, I'm not even saying it will always come back to a two-party system as long as we have the current election laws in place, meaning we have a winner takes all in terms of the electoral process. It will always consolidate back to two. All I'm advocating for to everyone that's left, and there's not many people left, is that if you will remove the corruption and the money from politics and you prevent people from staying in politics too long, doesn't matter if it consolidates back to two parties. If you can put constitutional amendments in place to those two things, whether you have liberal values, progressive values, conservative values, it will all get sorted out, because compromise is winning. And as someone who just graduated recently, there's this belief in the Gen Z world, and actually in the entire society, that you have to be winning all the time. You don't. That is losing. If you think you're winning all the time by whatever political beliefs that you have or issues, you are falling either towards fascism or communism. Democracy is always about compromise. And that's something that most people have not realized is the actual truth. The pursuit of a more perfect union is an endless pursuit. And that pursuit is always about balancing compromise. And most people, because it's a boring topic, don't want to understand that simple fact. If you want to live in a representative democracy and have freedom, liberty, the rule of law, there will always be endless compromises. And that is winning.
I agree with you. And let me leave you with one last thing, right? You were talking about, and you have the pro-Israel zeus, right? And you were stating earlier that, and again you used they, but fine.
I have to, just because of, if I say it too many times, I don't know what's going to happen.
No, but I thought you meant they as in the right when you were talking about zeus.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, what's interesting is, you said communism basically turns into fascism, and I totally agree with that. Right.
No, it falls one way or the other, right? If you go too far right, you go to fascism. You go too far left, you go to communism.
Exactly, right? So it's a circle, right? It's not a
right.
It's not a line, right? And I think what's interesting is, now what's crazy, the far right, and I guess most of the left, and not even the far right, probably half of the right, except for the, what would you call them? I guess the the conventional conservatives, right? Those are the only people still supporting Israel and what they're currently doing. The rest of the right and most of the left now kind of have the same view, which is very interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've kind of come together in a certain sense, and I think that should be something that should be built on and should be something that everyone views as, wow, this is amazing. Two people can come together, right? But it's still a point of contention, which is crazy. That's all I have to say. But.
Okay. No one, any last parting thoughts? No one?
No, we'll be here another hour if I start. So
all right.
I'll save it for the next one.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Lady Liberty, thanks for being here again. And thanks for all the likes. And hopefully I will change my screen. Oh, thanks for the cowboy hat, if that's what that is. I will change my prompt.
Me on, by the way.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for joining me, and I'll see you guys soon.
Have a good one, Nolan and TK.
See you, man.
Yep. You too.
All right, so I'm going to leave everyone with one last inspirational thing, and it's going to be a SNL skit. Everyone should listen to this. Thanks for everybody for watching. I'll pick a different prompt so more people can join because this live was restricted. So listen to the outro. This was actually quite funny from SNL, and it has to do with the Constitution.
I hear the British are sending another 5,000 troops.
How will we ever win this war?
By remembering what we fight for.
General Washington.
Sit, please. We need your strength for the fight ahead. We fight for a country of our own, a new nation, where we choose our own laws.
Hear, hear.
Said, sir.
Choose our own leaders.
Yes, sir.
And choose our own systems of weights and measures.
Weights and measures, sir?
Yes. Yes, I dream of that one day. Our proud nation will measure weights in pounds, and that 2,000 pounds shall be called a ton.
And what will 1,000 pounds be called, sir?
Nothing. Because we will have no word for that.
Seems like we should have a word for 1,000 pounds, sir.
And yet we won't. Because we are free men. And we will be free to measure liquids and liters and milliliters. But not all liquids, only soda, wine, and alcohol.
Only those, sir.
Yes. Because for milk and paint, we will use gallons, pints, and quarts, God willing.
Okay. How many liters are in a gallon, sir?
Nobody knows.
And, sir, in this new country, what plans are there for men of color such as I?
Distance will be measured in inches, feet, yard, and mile. So 12 inches to a foot?
12 feet to a yard.
If it were only so simple. 3 feet to a yard.
And how many yards to a mile?
Nobody knows.
Okay, well, how many feet to a mile?
5,280, of course. It's a simple number that everyone will remember.
Let's confess, it feels a little complicated, sir. Why not use meters and kilometers?
We will, soldier. But only in certain unpopular sports like track and swimming. For popular sports like football, we will use yards.
Football, sir?